Hello, my name is Scott Davis. Welcome to New World Birth. This is the care and feeding of a new world age for the Gregorian date of April 10th, 2016, and one key-mee, or transformation in the Mayan Zolkin calendar, with Mars turning retrograde, followed by Pluto turning retrograde, the Sun entering Taurus, and the Scorpio full moon. April 10th is one key-mee, or transformation, and it carries the themes of death and rebirth, forgiveness, surrender, guidance of women through pregnancy, new beginnings through the release of what no longer serves us, psychic abilities, and self-actualization. And the transformation day sign speaks of a choice to follow our heart's intuition and the wisdom of our ancestors, nature, and Mother Earth, or the path of the ego and the dialogue of the chattering mind. And I believe that we all chose to incarnate during this time of transformation. So it's important to flow with the cosmic changes, and that's really the reason for these reports, so that you'll have the information to prepare for difficult time periods, but also to savor the times when the energy is allowing an ease in opening and expansion of consciousness. The readings I provide dial this in for you on a much deeper level, but these reports have some good overall information to navigate these uncertain times. There may be growing pains associated with transformation, but I believe it's the resistance to these evolutionary shifts that can cause suffering. Before I get into the daily energy for one key-mee, or transformation, on the 10th, all the planets appear to be moving direct from our perspective here on the Earth, with the exception of Jupiter and Saturn, which appear to be moving retrograde or in reverse motion. And remember, the themes of retrograde planets are a review of the past, reevaluate, reminisce, and we can see these themes being played out. Jupiter was the king of the gods, and the planet is about good fortune, opportunities, faith, religion, and beliefs, as well as expansion. And Jupiter is in Virgo, which is about organization, health, and service. Mostly what I find with Jupiter retrograde, as with any retrograde cycle, there's a review of the past. And with Jupiter, what gets reviewed are missed opportunities. And then we also have Saturn retrograde in Sagittarius. And this delays success until perseverance and patience are learned. Saturn themes are travel, education, adventure, expanding our horizons, and planning for upcoming experiences. Saturn gives us the details to the grand overview of Sagittarius. Saturn retrograde is a taskmaster, and it demands that we take responsibility to review our beliefs while in Sagittarius. And the big change during this Trisena is that we have Mars turning retrograde and Pluto turning retrograde. Mars on the 17th, Pluto on the 18th. And as I said in the last report, April is the fourth month, and with the digits of 2016, when we add them together, we get 13, and we can add the 1 and the 3, and it tells us that we're in a 13-4 month in numerology. The 13-4 combination is represented by the Death and Emperor Tarot cards, which is about releasing the unnecessary and obstacles to moving forward on our paths to ultimately empower others through our example of selfless and enlightened leadership. The Death Tarot card is also the Scorpio card in the Thoth deck. And in April, we've got both the traditional and modern ruler of Scorpio turning retrograde, Mars being the traditional ruler and Pluto being the modern ruler, and they're turning retrograde a day apart from each other. And to add to the synchronicity, they're turning retrograde during the key-mee, or transformation Trisena, which of course has many of the same themes and characteristics of Scorpio death, Mars and Pluto. So Mars appears to be moving in reverse on the 17th, and of course planets don't really move backward. It's more like when you're in a fast-moving car that's passing a slower car. The slower car appears to move backward relative to distant landmarks on the horizon. And so during the end of March and the beginning of April, Mars appears to slow down, stop, and begin to move in reverse which is, of course, called retrograde by astrologers. And when the planet is stopped or stationed, it's said to be at the peak of its power. So during this period, Mars, representing drive and aggression, is in Sagittarius. And as Mars is going to retrograde back into Scorpio, again, the sign of its traditional rulership, on May 27th. And Mars is currently retrograde in Sagittarius. And last year, I'm sorry, not Mars, we have Saturn, as I said before, is currently retrograde in Sagittarius. But last year, Saturn was retrograded from 4 degrees 55 minutes of Sagittarius to 28 degrees 17 minutes of Scorpio. And this year, Mars retrogrades from 8 degrees 53 minutes Sagittarius to 23 degrees 3 minutes of Scorpio. So the Mars retrograde is going to encapsulate last year's Saturn retrograde, which is likely to revisit events and experiences that were more limited and stuck during last year's Saturn retrograde. But with Mars, what's going to happen is those events are going to be feeling the aggression and the action of Mars as it retraces its steps. The dates of the corresponding Saturn retrograde were March 14th to August 2nd, 2015. So if you keep journals or records, you might want to review what was going on in your life at that time for anything that seemed at an impasse or obstructed and has yet to be realized. As Mars is going to bring energy for action, particularly between May 12th and June 2nd, when retrograde Mars exactly retraces last year's Saturn retrograde. Mars begins its first stage of offering us a course correction on February 18th. That's when it began by crossing the point where it will eventually begin forward motion at 23 Scorpio. From then until April 17th, we're gathering information and energy related to the upcoming course change. On the 17th, Mars begins its second stage, which lasts until June 29th, where the retrograde movement has us going back over the details of the first stage as experiences give us an indication of what needs to change in our lives. As an aside, sexual relationships that begin during Mars retrograde cycle may be less than satisfying. Mars turns direct on June 29th, and it begins the third stage, which lasts until August 23rd. And at that time, we implement the course correction that we became aware of through this process. To understand how you personally will be impacted, look at the area governed by the house in your astrology chart that contains the arc of 23 degrees Scorpio to 9 degrees Sagittarius. Mythically, Mars is the Roman counterpart to Aries, the Greek god of war, bloodshed, and violence. And Homer portrayed him as moody and unreliable, representing the chaos of war, whereas Athena was the goddess of military strategy and skill. And Mars will be more of a berserker than a soldier. So retrograde Mars in Sagittarius has us reviewing our drives related to our beliefs, Sagittarius, and in Scorpio, the ethics of our actions will be reviewed. Then we also have Pluto turning retrograde on the 18th. And when Pluto, the planet of transformation through death and rebirth, turns retrograde, meaning we're reviewing the past, it begins a time of releasing anything from the past that's a burden to our new path. We can choose to let go of it, or we can have it ripped from our hands. That's the choice we have, is about how we're going to react. Pluto's going to take our baggage regardless of our attachment if it doesn't really have a purpose in our rebirth. And what I find interesting about the astrology of April, we've got Pluto, it's in Capricorn. As it slows to the stop and begins begins its reverse or retrograde motion on the 18th. As I said before, Pluto's planets are at the peak of their power when they're stopped. And again, Pluto represents death, completion. And in Capricorn, it's the breakdown of structures to bring about transformation. And Pluto moved into Capricorn in 2008, which was the point where the overly optimistic investments of Pluto in Sagittarius started to crash. Pluto in Capricorn is determined in exposing the darkness and destroying the old order, so that we can rise up like a phoenix from the ashes and soar again. And Pluto will be in Capricorn until 2024. And early in its transit through the sign, that there's a breakdown phase where something that no longer serves us is dismantled to create space for something new. And Capricorn is about large structures. It includes banks, governments, corporations, and religions. So this is a time of a cosmic course correction for the entire planet. We cannot continue to harm Mother Earth for the economic gain of a few. And Pluto is about the power and empowerment, which I believe is about our spiritual evolution from being conditioned to live in fear of not getting our needs met. Like too many rats in a maze, to realizing that there really is enough for all. We just don't, and then we don't have to fight each other. We really are being sold at a very high price. I might add, the concept of manufactured lack. And it's a resistance to Pluto's lessons of letting go of the past that bring tragedy and pain. Pluto is about building and achievement. It's an earth sign, so it's rooted in the material world. The goat climbing the highest mountains is a symbol. Pluto in Capricorn rules, well, Pluto rules the underworld. And so I would be looking for events from underground that are related to the underground, like earthquakes, volcanoes, giant sinkholes, events involving tunnels and subway, and infrastructure in general related to Capricorn, but also, battles for underground resources such as oil and fracking. Here in Maine, we're battling the Nestle Corporation and their subsidiary, Poland Springs, because it's taking legal action against the locals over water rights as they drain the aquifer for profit while people's wells are going dry. Capricorn is also about the elderly, and in the U.S., we have a political battle over Social Security, which was paid for by people's payroll deductions and really has nothing to do with the national debt. But because our government has borrowed from Social Security and has no way to pay it back, they want to dismantle this lifeline for our seniors. So let's look at the daily vibrational energy for this Trisena. April 10th is 1 key-mee, or transformation. Unity experienced through releasing what no longer serves us in the Mayan Zol King calendar. I'm not going to be covering the daily lunar activity in these reports other than new and full moons, but that information is available on the New World Birth Daily Facebook post and on the blogger New World Birth blog. On the 11th, we have 2 Manique, or deer, which is about duality experienced through being of service in the Mayan Zol King calendar. The 12th is 3 Lamont, or star, or rabbit, or Venus, which is about taking action through being grateful for abundant relationships. And at this point, we have Mercury in a sextile to Neptune. So from our perspective here on the Earth, Mercury is forming a 60-degree angle with Neptune, which possibly stimulates imaginations and sensitivity to the world around us, both physical and non-physical, through our intuition. This is not the best day for clarity or doing precision, detailed work. Instead, turn our attention towards more of the spiritual aspects of life. will be benefited. This could be a period of dreaminess where folks spend more time fantasizing and withdraw from life. And, withdrawal from life is not bad. It's often important that for feeding the world within through inspiration, as the intangible reality is just as important as the material world. This may be a time where we are more aware of what's going on in the minds of others, and this may be difficult for keeping our intuitions organized. Clarity and detail are not favored during this time. And then we also have on the 12th, Venus, and it is in a trine to Mars. So from our perspective here, that's a 120-degree angle. And I think it's interesting that Venus is making a transit on the Lamont day, which is the Venus day in the Mayan calendar. So Venus trine Mars, we have a variety of effects, most of which are favorable. This brings the energy to be assertive without offending others, as folks appreciate directness. This brings a nice balance between your needs to be an individual with personal wants and needs, of course, but also your need to relate to others. Whenever there's a connection between Venus and Mars, there's a likelihood of an aroused sex drive. People are more likely to be charming and agreeable. This brings the concern that the partner is enjoying the relationship as well, which it fulfills important requirement for a successful sexual connection. The relationships begun at this time have a good chance of lasting, but even if it's a short-term liaison, they're usually satisfying without any bitterness at the time of parting. The 13th is for Maluk, or offering stability through appreciation all creation in the Mayan Zolkin calendar. April 14th is 5 Auk, or dog, empowerment through enjoying family and friends, as we have Mercury in a trine to Jupiter. So from our perspective here on the Earth, they are forming a 120-degree angle, which is great energy for making plans for the future from an overall perspective. This transit does influence us to take the easy way out and avoid difficult intellectual and mental problems. Mercury supported by Jupiter is good for business dealings and signing contracts, as we find that our minds are sharper and see opportunities that normally are overlooked. This is optimistic and promotes positive thinking and studying subjects that deal with high level of thought, such as law, philosophy, religion, things of that nature. The 15th is 6 Chuin, or monkey, which is about being in the flow through creating something new in the Mayan Zolkin calendar. The 16th is 7 Ebb, or road, reflection through serving our community. The 17th is 8 Ben, or reed, which is about balance through maintaining the home. And this is the date when Mars turns retrograde, which highlights our assertive and aggressive energy and begins a time when it takes more effort to get the same results as we normally do. This begins a 2.5-month period of reviewing what we're putting our energy and drive into. In Sagittarius, retrograde Mars has us reviewing our actions related to our beliefs. And in Scorpio, our ethical drives are reconsidered in the sign of Mars's traditional rulership. Also on the 17th, Mercury is in a trine to Pluto. So from our perspective on the Earth, this is again another 120-degree angle, which can bring concern about the deeper issues of life. This has people wanting to dig below the surface and uncover the mysteries. On a personal level, this can be excellent for inner work, so it might be a good day for some alone time to discover some of the deeper dimensions of your psyche. Communications may seem rather serious and profound. Thoughts will be more focused and gain insights about important developments. And then April 18th is 9-ish or Jaguar, which is about patience through experiencing nature. And at this point, we've got Pluto turning retrograde, which is about reviewing the past and will require releasing anything from the past that's a burden to our new path. Pluto is affecting many of us as it changes directions at 17 degrees Capricorn to spend about 6 months appearing to move in reverse from our vantage point on the Earth. So this can be particularly intense for people with personal planets at 17 degrees Aries, Cancer, Libra, or Capricorn. Also on the 18th, Venus is in a trine to Saturn. So from our perspective here on the Earth, Venus trine Saturn, and can bring some reliability, stability, and a clearer perspective about our relationship. People will recognize their loved ones as human. As long as we live up to our obligations, they're likely to do the same. Venus is also about money. So this may have folks being more conservative with their limited resources. Relationships begun under this transit tend to be stable and sobering and really more practical than romantic. The 19th is 10 men, excuse me, or eagle. This is about manifestation through seeing from a higher perspective. And on that day, we have the sun entering into Taurus from our perspective here on Earth, which illuminates purposeful determination and becomes efficient in practical matters for a month. This brings the grounded earth quality, as many will be working the soil in hopes of a harvest at this time in the northern hemisphere, obviously. This may also bring more of a focus on security, both emotionally and materially, along with having the resources needed to live comfortably. Also on the 19th, we have Venus in a square to Pluto. So from our perspective here on the Earth, Venus is forming a 90-degree angle with Pluto, which intensifies our emotional experiences and expressions. This can also brings a few days that are more challenging for relationships. It brings out secrets out into the open. This is a time being where we're being drawn into powerful love experiences that change our consciousnesses, at least for a time. This can bring changes to relationships, but our only recourse is to surrender and accommodate the shift, which can be difficult because we crave stability in relationships. And at times like this, relationships can be anything but stable. Probably the best option is to hold loosely to those we love for a few days before and after the 19th. This could also be a time when we might hear from or contemplate contacting a former lover as Venus dances with Pluto. April 20th is 11 key or wisdom resolution through being introspective, through introspection, meditation, or forgiveness in the Mayan Zolkin calendar. The 21st is 12 Kaban or Earth, understanding through gratitude for Mother Earth. April 22nd is 13 et snob, or flint, movement to the next stage through being introspective. With the Scorpio full moon at 2 degrees and 31 minutes, Scorpio, with the moon opposed by the sun, finding support from Neptune and in harmony with Jupiter. Neptune's influence on this lunation brings out our innermost subconscious fantasies and daydreams, confusing reality, which may not be great for accomplishing much work. With the lunation sextile Jupiter, the day it brings good feelings and congenial social interactions. Full moons are a time of tension, and as the sun is in Taurus, it's about balancing practical and material concerns with emotional and spiritual realms in our life, represented by the moon in Scorpio. Native Americans call this the full sprouting grass moon or the full egg moon, and to coastal tribes, the full fish moon, as fish swam upstream to spawn. This is also the full pink moon with the sprouting of the earliest wildflowers. And then also on the 22nd, we have Venus conjunct Uranus. So from our perspective here on Earth, they're at the 20 degrees of Aries, which can bring a day that's full of surprises. It's wonderful for self-expression in relationships, but we should be careful of unexpected disruptions in relationships if folks are feeling bored or that the relationship has become routine. The energy of merging the planet of money and love with the planet of the unexpected and independence, so this really could have shocking results, but not necessarily bad. If someone who has been able to free themselves, this could be like somebody who's able to free themselves from a horrible relationship, if they struggled with it in the past, they may find the courage to leave at this time. Or someone may unexpectedly have a financial windfall or enter into an exciting new love connection. But we could also see, Venus ruling money, the stock market or another financial system making an unexpected turn or collapse. Basically, with Uranus involved, the results are unpredictable. Relationships that begin under this type of transit are usually very exciting, but also unstable. Financial opportunities likewise could yield unexpected gains or losses. So no matter what the energies that are affecting you during this one transformation trisena, take some time to be in the flow of the planet by being in nature, watching a sunrise or a sunset, communing with the stars, being conscious of the moment through introspection, meditation, or being with someone you truly love. Every day we have is a blessing, no matter what the dramas that beckon to distract us. And we're all here just giving the performance of our lifetime on this world stage. Just take some time to observe the play as well as act your part. Remember, you're a spiritual being that's having a human experience. I want to thank you for checking out New World Birth. The next segment of the care and feeding of a new world age will be on April 23rd for one Kalak or storm with Mercury turning retrograde and Venus entering Taurus. You can check us out on Facebook, YouTube, or the Mayan Magics website, as there's New World Birth presences in all those places. I encourage you to share this information as videos or as text as widely as you choose. And as always, I invite you to contact me at newworldbirth@yahoo.com if you've got any questions or you wish to schedule a reading. And I am providing readings and wish to make this service available to the greatest amount of folks. So I've created 3 options with 3 different levels of compensation. So if you've been thinking about getting a reading, please contact me. I would love to provide you a reading during these uncertain times. You'll need to be able to either call me in Maine in the USA, or we can connect with Skype to receive your reading. We're also accepting donations to keep these reading reports freely available. And as I said before, just email me at newworldbirth@yahoo.com if you wish to make a donation or get a reading. You'll get something of great value to you, as well as supporting what we're doing here at New World Birth. As always, I am blessed that you've taken the time to connect with my passion for these ancient mysteries and their application to our journey during this incarnation. The light in me honors the light in you. Namaste. In Lakesh, and so much gratitude, and looking forward to connecting with you in the future. Bye, everybody.